Cara was our daughter. And even though we didn't have an opportunity to learn about her personality, we love her just as much as our other kids.
Cara was born on September 10th, 2018. We found out on September 7th that Cara had a brain abnormality.
Care Bear, it's your daddy.
After she was born, they did an MRI and found that it was a very large tumor, and medically there wasn't anything that could be done. So they sent us home with hospice, and Cara lived for 7 weeks.
Oh my goodness, look at you.
The birth was kind of intense, and then we heard her cry on her own when they brought her out, and that was a big moment for us.
Coming home was really scary because she had a feeding tube, and before we left the hospital, they were kind of preparing us for every worst case scenario. And if she has a seizure, this is what you do. If her feeding tube comes out, this is how you handle that. And it was really intimidating and scary.
By the time we got to go home, which was 3 or 4 days after she was born.
3 days.
3 days. We knew, they told us, hey, she has 10% of a brain that formed. What took its place was this tumor. Days to weeks to live. It's too risky to operate. It's too big. It's too bloody. Meanwhile, she's doing her thing. She's growing, eating, crying, pooping, being normal. The only thing that, aside from the tumor in her head and the size of her head and her feeding tube, was just that her eyes, for the most part, her pupils would be under her. We couldn't really see her pupils, just because of the pressure in her head was causing it to drop. It would come up every now and then, but for the most part they were down. I think Jen only got to hold her like on her chest once or twice, just because her body was so little, but her head was so big, and so you couldn't really hold her because it was just so much weight.
I got up with Cara around 2 a.m. and that's when we would normally feed her. And she was vomiting up her previous meal. So I came downstairs with her and just held her for a while. And then her eyes lifted. The pressure from behind her eyes released enough that her eyes lifted. So I knew that something was not right, and I went to get Tom around 4, I think, and we sat with her and rocked her, and we had music playing, and we were listening with a stethoscope to her chest, and still holding on to that miracle, still crying out to God to please let her stay with us. But her heart slowed and her breathing slowed, and she was very peaceful, and she just slipped away. So the day after she passed away, we went to the funeral home to plan for her final arrangements. And we were talking about something that we could ask people to donate to in lieu of flowers. Something that would, create something more lasting than flowers. And we tossed around a couple of ideas, but we couldn't think of something that really meant something to her story. So we just decided in the car on the way back home that we would start something, and we didn't know exactly what it would be or what it would look like, but let's just do something to honor her memory, her life, to honor her life. So the first family that we were able to help, they live in Maryland, and they had a baby boy that was sent home from the hospital with a terminal diagnosis. And what Cara's Purpose did, we sent a care package to them. And at that time, we didn't have a clear vision of where we were going to go with this. It was just more of a, what can we do to help?
I think one of the biggest things that came from that was just the reaching out was helpful.
We were able to get a meal donated to that family, and it's just, since then, it's kind of evolved into when we have care packages at CMC Maine, and so when a baby gets sent home under similar circumstances, they take a care package home with them, and there's an invitation inside to reach out to us and let us know what they need help with, so that we can provide services that will help them spend more quality time with their family. Obviously, we never want any baby to have a terminal diagnosis, but we don't want for the ones that do to go home feeling alone or scared.